Hi there, I'm Carmen Domingo, and I'll share to you about the book of Numbers in the Bible. But before we proceed, may I ask you a few questions in my previous lecture? Number one is, where is the setting of Leviticus? Answer, the setting of Leviticus is at Mount Sinai, while the Israelites were on their way to Canaan, the land of promise. Number two is, who were the sons of Aaron who were consumed by fire for offering an authorized sacrifice to God? Answer, Nadab and Abihu. Number three is, what does Leviticus emphasize? Answer, the instructions of Leviticus emphasize ritual, legal, and moral practices rather than beliefs, reflecting the picture of creation story in Genesis 1 that God wishes to live with humanity. Now let's start talking about our topic. The book of Numbers is the fourth book written by Moses in the Bible. It has 36 chapters, and please find a special time reading it because it is important for everybody to know the past to appreciate the present. And I will tell you about its significance for our practical way of living as regards to this book. Numbers is the pinnacle of the story of Israel's journey away from oppression in Egypt and their task to take possession of the land God promised their fathers. God has promised the Israelites that they shall become a great nation, that they will have a special relationship with Yahweh, their God, and that they shall take possession of the land of Canaan, the promised land. Numbers also demonstrates the importance of holiness, faithfulness, and trust in obeying God. But despite of God's presence, Israel still lacks faith that leads to disobedience, and the possession of the land is left to a new generation. The book describes Moses making population census 2 times, hence the name Numbers. Written about 1450 to 1410 BC, it involves personalities such as Moses, Aaron, Miriam, Joshua, Caleb, Eleazar, Korah, and Balaam. For a better understanding, here are the detailed events by chapters. In chapters 1 to 9, the Israelites are preparing for their journey and entry into the promised land. Moses starts off by taking a census of all the tribes, primarily to see how many men are available and in shape for military service. Moses dedicates the Levites and instructs the Nazirite vows and laws. During this time, the Israelites celebrate the second Passover 1 year after their exit from bondage. In chapters 10 to 12, the Israelites travel from the wilderness in Sinai to approach the promised land. Now, the people start complaining about their food of manna and quail, and because of their greed, God sends them a plague. Here we can see Moses' siblings, Miriam and Aaron, having been jealous over their younger brother Moses' leadership. With this, they learned a lesson because God punished Miriam with leprosy and only healed when Moses cried out to God for healing. In chapters 13 to 19, we see severe punishment for disobedience and unfaithfulness to God. Moses sends out 12 spies to perform reconnaissance on the promised land. The 12 spies return and only 2 of them bring good news. The other feared the giant occupants and were against pursuing to take the land. For this, God punishes them and sends them into the wilderness for 40 years to roam. The last chapters of Numbers from 20 to 36, we can see the new generation of Israelites again attempting to enter the land and to take it as God promised. This time, they easily destroyed 2 nations in war as they are entering. Here, Balak, a king of Moab, furious over Israel's victory, uses his prophet Balaam, a Mesopotamian soothsayer, to seduce the Israelites to worship Baal through the Moabite women. The Israelites did not stand their ground not to marry foreign women. Thus, this disobedience cost the life of 24,000 people, including Balaam. Before the book of Numbers ends, Moses again conducts a census, and Joshua assumes the leadership of Israel in place of Moses, who is banned from the promised land due to his disobedience, also by striking the rock to produce water instead of talking to it. This book unveils significant events that are being written, like that of Joshua and Caleb alone, among the 12 spies, encouraged Israel to take possession of the land. Moses struck a rock and water sprouted forth. Moses lifted up a bronze serpent on a pole so that believing Israelites might be healed of their snake bites, and Balaam was rebuked by his donkey. So what's the great significance? In this book, the Israelites tested God's patience, and God in turn tested their endurance and faithfulness. Though the people failed many times, God showed his own faithfulness by his constant presence amidst the people, leading them back the way, through a cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. More than just a history lesson, the book of Numbers reveals how God reminded Israel that he does not tolerate rebellion, complaining, and disbelief without invoking consequences. He taught his people how to walk with him, not just with their feet through the wilderness, but with their mouths in worship, hands in service, and lives as witnesses to the surrounding nations. He was their God, they were his people, and he was expected them to act like it. How to apply our learning to practical living God's way? The story of the Israelites' disobedience leading to punishment and God's never-ending love reminds believers of the spiritual warfare in which we are engaging day after day. Christian believers have many troubles: sickness and diseases, poverty, oppressions, and the like are some examples. But we need only to put our hope and trust in God, for he is the God of order, and no plans made by men, even the most powerful and influential men, will prosper without the Lord's permission. Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Have faith in God because he does not abandon his covenant. He honors the obedient, and he pours out blessings far beyond what is being deserved. This blessing has been declared over God's people for thousands of years. Number 6, verses 24 to 26 say, "The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace." This blessing was to put God's name on his people, to remind them of his goodness and grace, in order to make them receptive to all the blessings he wanted to give them. I hope you are blessed. Till next time. Bye.